Story time about the chick who stalked me in high school. To give you some context, when I was in high school, grade 12 specifically, my dad bought a restaurant on the Sunshine Coast. Over the summer holidays, my friends and I were employed to work at this restaurant. The bar staff at the restaurant was super hot local surfer guys, and we were of course obsessed with them. There was this one guy in particular who I thought was super hot, and we started like texting and flirting. I'm pretty sure we hung out a total of 2 times in our whole relationship. That's beside the point. I was absolutely obsessed with this guy, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever that I had a long distance relationship with a surfer guy from Noosa. I remember telling like random strangers that he was my boyfriend, even though we were never official. I used to go on about how it was a secret relationship because my dad would never let me date anyone who worked for him. It was literally such a scandal. My relationship with this guy progresses. When I say relationship, I mean like we're talking to each other on Facebook chat maybe twice a week. My love for said man grows. One night, I'm out with my friends at a party and I get a call from this no number. I'm always curious when a no number calls me, so I pick up. Whoops. On the line was this girl who was just saying the nastiest things to me. She was like calling me fat and ugly when in reality I was in my ano phase. I had like these long blonde extensions. None of this was true. Anyway, I was like, who is this bitch? At one point she goes to me, do you know David Topping? Name has been changed for anonymity purposes. I was like, yeah, I know David. So I work out that this has something to do with David. Eventually, I stop answering the calls. I'm like, this is so annoying. I'm trying to have fun at my party. When I stop answering the calls, this number starts texting me. So now I have the number. Previously, they had been calling off a blocked number, but when they texted me, I got the number. So I call the number back and Shiz obviously freaked out, realized that I now have her number. So she didn't pick up when I called. And what this meant was that the call rolled to voicemail. When it hit the voicemail, it said, hey, this is Bronte, leave a message. So now not only did I have her number, I also had her name. I then went to David's Facebook page, typed in Bronte, and there was only one Bronte who he was friends with. So obviously, this was the Bronte who was calling me. I added her on Facebook just to show her that I knew who she was and I knew that she was calling me, saying these nasty things, and she added me back. After that first night, I honestly thought I'd never hear from Bronte again. However, over the next year, Bronte proceeded to stalk me. What she did was she added every single person on my friends list on Facebook and would speak to them and say really awful, nasty things about me. She even added my friends on Skype and would call them to bitch about me. My friends thought this was hilarious. Some of them ignored her. Some of them like egged her on just for shits and giggles. I remember on multiple occasions I had 3-way calls with Bronte and my friends. Bronte just saying awful things about me and my friends standing up for me. She added guys on my friends list and told them all that I was a slut. And she called me literally every single day. The weird thing about all of this is that Bronte lived in Sydney. I'd never met her before, and seemingly the only connection that I had to her was via this David guy. I remember at first I thought it was pretty funny that I had a female stalker that I'd never met before, but after a while it just got annoying. The question was, how did Bronte get my number in the first place, and why did she hate me so much? The explanation is that David had given her my number and that he'd said some awful things about me to incite this anger in her. My other theory was that David had hooked up with this Bronte chick at some point. She'd fallen in love with him. He had maybe told her that he was seeing somebody else. She'd found out it was me, gone through his phone, got my number, and Bob's your uncle. To this day, I'm not really sure what happened or why. All I know is that this chick literally stalked me for a year. I never brought this up with David because being in high school, I wanted to be the cool girl who like was totally unfazed by being stalked. After some time, Bronte's calls did become problematic. I couldn't pick up any calls from a no number ID because it was 99% of the time Bronte. One day, a no number called me whilst I was sitting next to my dad and I didn't pick it up as per usual. Dad was like to me, why are you picking up the phone names? And I was like, oh, I just know who it's gonna be. Like, don't worry about it. My dad was like, how do you know who it's gonna be? It's from a no number. I was like, oh, trust me, I know who it is. Dad was like, what's going on, Ames? Now, I wouldn't normally tell my dad these intricate details of my life, but I was running out of answers for him. So I decided to just come clean and tell him about this stalker. Basically said that for the last year, she'd been calling me and harassing me on a daily basis. At that point, my phone rang again from a no number. And my dad said to me, give me the phone. He picked up. He said, hi, Bronte, this is Amy's father. We have your phone number. We have your Facebook. We know exactly who you are. And if you ever call my daughter again, we're getting the police involved. And that was the last time I heard from Bronte. So if you're in high school and you're currently getting bullied, just get your parents to threaten legal action. Also, I didn't change Bronte's name. So, hey Bronte, if you're listening.
I think I've met 2 psychopaths in my life, and unfortunately one of them is actually probably married to my friend. And I don't mean psycho as in like, oh, he's crazy, he's like violent. I mean like, you probably have bitches chopped up in your basement. Like, would not shock me at all. I met him when I was living on the East Coast for a year. I did not like him the moment I met him. Hairs on the back of my neck standing up, creepy, weird. I really didn't like him. When I found out some stories about him, basically my friends were friends with his girlfriend, and she went to a different school, but she would tell them that they had this like sexual fantasy that they would play out where she would hide somewhere in her house and he would act like an intruder. She would turn off all of her lights, he would act like an intruder and drag her out of her hiding place, and she would be like kicking and screaming. This man had like defensive wounds on his body, like scratches and shit, and I'm asking my friends, I'm like, is this consensual? Like, are we sure that this is consensual, just knowing the nature of him and how he's like manipulative and a liar? And they're like, well, she said it is. And I'm like, well, did you like really ask her? Like, are we like making her feel comfortable? That wasn't really their MO. And so I never knew about what happened there. They end up breaking up. Worst case scenario, he ends up really wanting to go after one of my friends, who is like the most innocent human on the entire planet. Mind you, this is her freshman year of college. She has not drank. She's not had her first kiss. She has not had sex, okay? She's religious. She doesn't want to do any of these things because she feels guilty, right? She still believes in this religion. And so he's pressuring her to have sex. And I'm like, dude, stop doing that. I literally tell him, I'm like, you know she doesn't want to do that. If you actually care about her, you'll respect her wishes and you'll stop trying to make her. And he's like, she's a big girl. She can decide. I'm like, you're right. She is a big girl and she can decide, but you're coercing her. It's different. And he was like, I don't care. I'm like, oh my fucking God. But this man is also like serially cheating on her, right? Like, we hear stories and stuff, but like never have any evidence. Finally, one of my friends, very close, lived with me, saw him cheating on her, literally witnessed with her own 2 eyes. And so I'm like, perfect, you're gonna tell her, right? Because we're both friends with her. And she goes, no. I'm like, why the fuck not? And she's like, well, because I'm friends with him too. First of all, who the fuck cares? Second of all, you should tell her. And she's like, no, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. I'm like, well, can I tell her then? And she's like, sure. So I end up telling her. I call her into my room. I'm like, hey girl, I have from a very credible source, mind you, the source is sitting next to me, that your man was making out with a girl last night and she watched him make out with her for like 5 minutes in the front lawn. And then actually he ended up bringing her home to his dorm room. She might be in there right fucking now. And she's like, oh my God, who told you? And I'm like, actually, unfortunately, I can't tell you. They asked not to be named. And mind you, the source is sitting next to me, right? And she's like, well, it would really make a difference if I could just talk to that person. I'm like, well, that person doesn't want you to know who they are. So unfortunately, I can't tell you. Fucking crickets from this stupid bitch, right? And so she ends up running over to his dorm room to see if the bitch is still there. The bitch has left. She found evidence of the girl being there, okay? But he somehow manipulates her, tells her this crazy ass story, tells her that I'm a fucking liar and that I'm making all this shit up. And why would she believe me saying some random person saw it and not believe her actual boyfriend telling her? And I'm just like, I can only do so much. And so this like source is friends with this man, right? And so he's in our dorm room kicking his feet and like laughing and joking with her on the bed. And I'm fuming. I'm like, I don't even know how you can look at this man. He's literally such a fucking asshole. And he turns around and he looks at me and goes, so I heard that you told her that I cheated on her. And like smiles. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Why the fuck did you do that? And he was like, honestly, I don't really care. Like, I'm just trying to like have sex because she won't do it. I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to keep fucking telling her. And he laughs and he goes, you really think she'll ever believe you? She will always believe me over you. And gives me like the most chilling, sinister, evil fucking smile I have ever fucking seen. Dead in his eyes. I swear to God. I was looking at that man and I'm like, I can't convince you to give a shit about being a good person. You're actually just fucking crazy. And it goes on like this for years. Literally years and years and years. He ends up like psychologically torturing her. He just treats her like shit. She's constantly nervous. She's always on edge. She's crying all the time. She's depressed. She wants to go home. It was like so fucked up to watch. And it pisses me off that like this source never told, because like you could have saved her. She is now married to this man. She's now married to this man and she will probably stay with him forever. And so if your friends are in a bad situation, make sure you check in on them. Make sure you're honest with them. Obviously, they will only leave when they're ready, but like try to be as accountable as you can. And girl, if you're watching this, you know who you are. I hope you're doing okay and you can always call me.
Guys, when I tell you I can't make this shit up, that happens in my life. It's unbelievable. So this morning, I'm leaving my house because I have an event to go to. So I've left my house, and you know when you leave your house, you're just scanning the area. So cool. I proceed to just making my way to the station. I like to walk to the station, it's about 20 minutes away. My normal headphones were dead, so I took my mum's headphones and they weren't working either. So I thought, okay, cool, I'm gonna have this journey without music. So 5 minutes into the journey now, going to the station, I feel presence behind me. I'm thinking something isn't right. Like I feel this material. I'm thinking, is this me? So I turn around and I see someone, but I thought, okay, cool, like maybe you're heading the same way as me. Like I'm not gonna pay no mind to it. So as I keep on walking, I feel this presence like really, really close to me, and I'm thinking something isn't right. So I bend down to pretend to fix my shoe, and as I fix my shoe, like someone kind of bumps into me, and I, oh sorry. So they walk past me. That's the person that's been like behind me, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like they're walking past me, like it's nothing weird. And then they turn the corner, so it's basically an underpass bridge, and then you can turn right or straight. So he turned right and I kept on going straight, and I thought, okay, cool, like I'm not overthinking, like no one's following me. Like 5 minutes again, I continue walking. I'm feeling this presence behind me, and I'm thinking something isn't right. Like this person's behind me again. So I start speeding up now, and then as I reach the station, I tap my card, and I feel this presence like go behind me, like push past me. So he basically bumped the barriers behind me, and I'm thinking, this is when I text my mum. So as this person is behind me, like just bumped the thing, I'm like to my mum, I feel like I'm being followed, like something feels weird. And I had to turn my brightness down because when I looked like to the side, I could see him like trying to look at my messages. So now I'm on the like side of the escalator where you don't move, but I'm thinking, okay, let me walk down the escalator to see if he's actually just following my moves. He starts following me down the escalator. I'm like, something isn't right. So I start speed walking. Then I see the train. So I try to hop on the train, and he goes like this. He grabs me from behind like this, so I can't move or get on the train. Guys, when this man grabs me from behind, I scream. I'm like, what the fuck? Like literally, because the platform was empty. So he thought, okay, this is like go time to literally just grab me and prevent me from going on the train. I don't know what his motive was, because people were going to come on the platform, and then I literally screamed. I started having like a panic attack because I'm just thinking like, this is weird. I literally felt like he's up against me while he's grabbing me. So as I scream, he literally runs away. Like he runs away. This woman approaches me. She's like, are you okay? I'm like literally in like tears. I go upstairs. I asked the staff, like, have you seen this boy? They're like, yes, he's literally just ran up and pushed the barriers, like he's gone. Guys, there's literally CCTV evidence, or I'm not going to put it because it just shows the outside of my house already, but there's CCTV evidence of him seeing me when he came out the shop and I came outside my house. He saw me, he walked the other way, and then he U-turned when he saw that I wasn't looking anymore. So there's literally CCTV evidence of him U-turning. And if it wasn't for my headphones not working, I wouldn't have suspected that someone was behind me. Like, something felt weird. And this is why I need to trust your intuition, because I was just thinking, is this person going my way? Or am I being followed? This is 11:30 a.m. by the way. This is broad daylight. And every time I went on a back road that felt quiet, I felt his presence getting closer until someone would like come on the road, and I'll just feel like the distance again. But I couldn't imagine if it was at night or like it was a back road and there was literally no one there. I don't know what he would have done, but he was literally following me for a good 20 minutes until he literally groped me. The point of my message is just stay vigilant. Like, I will not advise having headphones when you're walking on the street alone. It's just too dangerous. Like, people are getting madder by the day. If you can do this in broad daylight, you don't know what people can do at night. So obviously self-defense is illegal in the UK. I don't know why, but if you guys can just carry heat spray or something to protect you, because people are mad out here.
Get ready with me while I tell you about the creep that was sitting in front of me on my plane to America. So I just recently went to America from Melbourne. Like, I went straight to LA. We didn't have a stopover. And the flight is
14 and a half hours. So you kind of like get to know the people sitting like around you. So we made friends with the lady sitting next to us. She was really nice. But it was about halfway through the flight that I started to notice the man sitting diagonally across from me. So he was in front of my mum, but I could like see him there. So it was about halfway through the flight when I started to notice this man, because I think I had already watched the entire first season of Sex and the City, and that's all they had on my flight, only the first season. So I was getting bored and I was just like looking around for something else to do. And this man had obviously bought the Wi-Fi on the plane because he was scrolling through Twitter. So me being the kind of like snoopy person I am, I was looking at his screen just because I wanted something else to look at. So at first he was just scrolling through Twitter, just looking at like Trump updates and like Elon Musk, because this was the day that Trump had just gone into office. So he was obviously looking at all what was happening with everything going on. And then he scrolled on to this post that said, do women really love getting as much as guys love getting pussy? And he scrolled onto the comments and reposts. And he was like reading through all of the women's answers and stuff. And you know what? I understand being sometimes curious about like how the other gender thinks and stuff. So I didn't really think much of it. I was like, okay, maybe he's just curious about this certain topic. And then he went back to like the main Twitter feed and he scrolled on to the next post. And the next post was 9 things you should never do to your dick. And he went into the comments and he started reading about that. And at this point, I'm getting a little bit like icked out. I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he reading so much about dick and pussies? And then it gets worse. And he looks up this account, which seemingly at first just looks like a normal photography account. Like, it's just some guy's photography page. I was very wrong though. The photography page was actually, it was this one artist and he photographed women naked. Okay, you know what? That's a form of art, like, whatever. Not a big issue to me. But this guy was obviously using these photos in a way they were not intended, because he was scrolling onto each individual photo, clicking on it and zooming in on these women. Like, it might be a woman in a field and she's like a centimeter big in the picture. He was zooming in and looking at her. And I literally clocked straight away. I was like, oh, okay, this is really weird. And he was probably doing this for a good, like, maybe 10 minutes. And my mum had just woken up from a nap. And I said to mum, like, okay, like, try and have a look at what he's doing. Like, I was whispering it. I wasn't fucking being loud. And mum looks over and she's like, what the fuck? Because he's literally zooming in on every single photo of these women, analysing it, looking at, like, certain parts of her. And I'm like, what's happening? And so mum says, like, quite loudly, like, what the fuck, that's weird. And he starts going like this. And he's looking at my reflection, looking at his phone, like, through his phone. And he starts, like, going like that. And I, like, look away. I'm like, oh, I'm not looking. And he immediately shuts down his phone. And, like, I think he started going on the movies thing. And from that moment forward, anytime this man would open his phone, me and him would make intense eye contact through the reflection. And look, I might be extremely wrong about what his intentions were. It's just, sue me. It's what it looked like. Anyways, let me know if you've ever had any weird encounters on airplanes.
I have to tell you about this horror travel story. I've never been nervous or anxious about who sits next to me on a plane until this happened to me back in 2020, and I've never been able to let it go. So I was solo traveling from Vietnam back to Sydney, Australia, and on my flight back, I got sat next to this absolute psycho. To cut a long story short, I love a good chat. So this guy, he gets on, I'm sitting next to the window, he's seated next to me. He jumps on the plane, he's like, oh, hi, love. He's like Caucasian, Aussie, like mid-50s, like on his way to 60. I'm like, oh, hi. And he's like, oh, I'm seated next to you. And I'm like, oh, that's great, take a seat. Anyways, he gets chatting, and I love a good chat with a stranger. So I'm just like, oh, yeah, blah, blah. He asked me, oh, so what were you in Vietnam for? And I said, oh, like, I wanted to lie because I was there for work, and like I just feel awkward saying that. And I was like, oh, just a bit of. And he goes, what, modelling? And I said, oh, yeah, kind of. And he goes, yeah, I can tell you got the body for it, darling. Immediately no. Immediately I'm uncomfortable, and I just, no. And then I was like, oh, thanks. And he goes, oh, yeah, me, that was just my stopover, because we were actually coming from Hong Kong. Our stopover was in Hong Kong. He goes, that was just my stopover. I've come from the Philippines. You want to know why? And I was like, I don't, but you're like, yeah, tell me. In the Philippines looking for a wife. And I was like, oh, that's good. And he goes, do you want to know why I look in the Philippines? Because they're small, they're quick, they do the cooking and cleaning for you, they'll listen to anything you say. And I was like, I'm really happy. Now I just feel uncomfortable, because then he started asking what my nationality am I Filipino? And I was like, I'm not Filipino, I promise you I'm not. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put a movie on, and then I don't need to worry about him. I put my movie on, and I just smell this breath like in my direction, and I'm like, this is after like 15 minutes, and I look to the side. I am not even joking. He's got his own TV. He's watching my movie like this. And I've got the headphones in, so he can't even hear what's going on the screen, but he's watching my movie. This is the kicker. This is the worst part. I was like starting to get annoyed, and I was just like, oh my God, like go be weird somewhere else. Like, I'm just trying to get home. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to sleep. I won't have to deal with him. Long story short, I woke up to this man taking selfies of me while I was sleeping, and I confronted him. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, you said you were, you know, there for modelling. I thought maybe if you're a famous model. Like, I obviously woke up, like, because I could sense that there was, like, something in my face. He was fucking taking selfies of me. Went to go complain to the flight attendants on the plane, like, literally crying, and they said, sorry, it's a full flight. You're going to have to sit there till you get back to Sydney. Sent an email complaining after that flight. But anyways, that's the story. Traumatic.
Get ready with me while I talk about my stalker. It all started when I was about like 12 years old. I downloaded this app called Kick, and I'm sure like everyone remembers that app and the amount of weirdos. So this is when I wasn't sure on my sexuality, and like obviously I was so young. I was like 12 years old. I started talking to this person who I thought was my age on Kick. I have no idea how we came into contact on it. I don't really remember how the app works. But we started talking, and then we took it over to Snapchat. Started to progress and get a bit weird and inappropriate, and like I was not down for that. So I kind of like shut it down. Well, I tried to, and then he ended up telling me his real age, and he said that he was 28. So I blocked him. This fully grown adult man continued to create more and more Snapchat accounts to like add me back, but he never went as his name. The only time he went as his name was the first time he created an account, and that is the only reason why I've been able to make police reports, is because I remembered his name from 8 years ago. When he would add me back all these times, he would create accounts under my name, like my full name, or he would call himself like daddy and really disgusting, creepy thing. I think I ended up blocking him probably about, I'm gonna say in total, probably easily over 150 times. He created so many accounts, and when I would stop talking to him, he would create another one. I ended up thinking it was my fault for even talking to him in the first place, therefore I felt like I couldn't go to anyone about this issue. It was only until he started to get progressively weird and would say like he knew where I was and my location and like what I was wearing, and ask me where I was. Like, it just got really weird, and he would say facts that I was like, oh my God, how do you know that? He knew train stations from where I was from, where I was that day, and it like my brain couldn't comprehend it. I still have all the screenshots and everything. He kept disappearing and then coming back like every few months or every few weeks, like every time I would remove him, and it just got too much. On my 18th birthday, he messaged me, remembering it was my 18th birthday, like 5 years after he started harassing me. I started to retaliate towards him and be like, can you stop messaging me? Can you stop being inappropriate? Like, the whole time I was doing this, but like even more so, I was like, I'm gonna go to the police if you don't stop. He then took a turn with his level of harassment, and it started to become a lot of threats, and I got so scared. I really thought I was gonna be able to do this within time, but I'll make a part 2 and I'll like post it straight after, guys. Don't worry, you don't have to wait.
Get ready with me whilst I tell you some really funny but traumatic experiences I had when I was at school and being a social media girl. Starting off, I think this is one that a lot of people always get shocked about, because they're like, no way people asked you this. But teachers used to always ask me like, oh, how much do you earn a year, and like, all these really, really personal questions about like my money. And like I just always used to think I would never ask a teacher how much they earn, so why are they asking me? A lot of people always expected, like, because I had a following on social media, that a lot of people wanted to be my friend, but I'd say it was the complete opposite. People was kind of like, I don't even know what it was, but people was just so weird with me and like just was rude all the time and be like, oh, she's a TikTok girl, like she's so prestige, but none of them would even speak to me. Like I made some really good friends in younger years and my years, but everyone else just had such an opinion when they didn't know me, which is one thing I find with social media, and a lot of my friends had the same issues growing up on social media. It's really annoying. I think one of the most funny, memorable things is the rumours people used to make about me, which was so far from the truth. And it used to literally make me giggle so much because I'd be like, that's just not true. Like, basically, some girls was throwing balls at the back of my head in PE. And I felt really dizzy. So I went to the medical woman and they made me, like, tell them what happened. Because I was like, I don't really care. But I had to tell medical what happened. And then medical told pastoral, which is, like, the people that, like, try to sort out problems. And I remember I was like, oh, this is just going to get me so much more problems. And then the whole of year 8 and 9, I had a rumour going around that apparently my parents paid the school to get me out of trouble. And my dog's sneezing like mad. Are you okay? No, like, there was seriously a rumour going around that my parents owned part of the school. My parents paid the teachers not to get me in trouble. But in reality, they was all the ones that was being naughty and not me. That's why I just never got in trouble, because I was just the blooming victim of it all. But yeah, that was a very good rumour that went around. Everyone literally told everyone that my mum paid the school to get me out of trouble. Another thing was I was called Snobson because my last name's not actually Charlize, it's Hobson. And my whole school life, I was called Amelie Snobson because apparently I was a snob. In year 7, I had a red bag. So in year 7, most of the people used to call me Red Bag Girl because no one knew my name. If I ever had hate from anyone from school, like being horrible to me, and the school found out about it, the school would tell me to quit social media because that's the reason that I get hate. But, like, there would be kids that done dancing in my school that would get hate because they was, like, good at dancing. But they never got told to quit what they was passionate in doing. It was just because I done something different. If you want a part 2, let me know. I've got so much more.
Guys, I experienced one of the scariest nights of my life last night, and I actually wasn't going to speak about it, but I feel like I should because it might just save someone's life. So this pretty much started last night at about 9:30 p.m. when I went to Woolies to do some grocery shopping. And this particular store closes at 10 o'clock, so I only had about half an hour to get in and out. So I made my way in and I started in the fruit and veg section. And as I was picking out some bananas, I looked up and there was a guy there and he was also picking out some veggies. And he looked over at me and he smiled. So then I smiled back because, just to be polite. I went about my business and I continued with my shopping, and then I ended up in the meal prep section. I was looking through meal preps and I was just reading through the ingredients and the calories, and that's when I look up and I notice the guy again, and this time he's giving me a weird look. I thought initially that it may have been a look of recognition. I thought, okay, maybe this guy recognizes me. That's a bit embarrassing. I continued my shopping. I went from aisle to aisle, and then it was about 10:02 and I realized that the store's actually closed, so I need to get out of there. And that's when I made it to the cash register and I was heading out to pay for my stuff when a staff member approached me. I was like, oh, this is literally my worst nightmare because I'm always so paranoid about being accused of theft. So I thought this lady is going to accuse me of stealing something because I was actually in one of the aisles for a bit too long and it may have looked suspicious. So she's like, excuse me, come over here, please. So I was like, oh my God, how embarrassing. She's going to ask to search me or she's going to say that, like, you're stealing. So she's whispering at me and she's like, excuse me, sister, please come here. Come here, please. So I was like, is everything okay? She's like, I need to talk to you. So she pulls me over to the side and she's like, sister, do you know that man in the grey hoodie? And I look up, I was like, what man? And she's like, that man over there. And this guy, like, it was the guy that smiled at me when I had first entered the store. And I was like, no, I don't know who that is. Why are you asking? And she's like, because me and one of my co-workers have noticed that this guy has been stalking you for the past 30 minutes. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, he's been following you very suspiciously from aisle to aisle for the past 30 minutes. He's been lurking from a distance and we noticed him and we feel extremely uncomfortable for you. I was like, what the hell? I noticed him and I thought he was a bit creepy, but I just thought maybe he recognized me and like, or maybe he was interested or something like that, because he kept smiling at me and he kept making eye contact and kept giving me these weird looks. But I didn't know the guy. I've never seen him in my life. And she's like, yeah, he's been stalking you. I was like, shit, that's creepy. She's like, all right, what you're going to do is pay for your stuff and don't leave. Stay in the store. She's like, I'll organize for one of the male staff members to walk you out to your car. I was like, okay, thanks, sister. So I paid for my stuff and I waited around while they organized someone to walk me out. Now, as I'm waiting for them to get a staff member to walk me out, that guy, he's now exiting the store. And what I notice is so weird, like borderline sinister, but the guy's already purchased his stuff. So he's paid for his stuff, I don't know however long ago, but he paid for his stuff and he left the stuff outside. So the stuff were outside, they weren't even in the store. And then he went back in to continue stalking me. So while he was stalking me, he wasn't shopping. He'd already purchased his stuff like maybe like an hour before or like half an hour before or however long he was in there. He'd already purchased the stuff. He'd left them outside and then he came back into the store to continue to follow me from aisle to aisle. And had this woman and her male co-worker not noticed that he was following me, I would have been none the wiser. So anyways, he exits the store, he picks up his stuff and he starts running. He literally just disappears. He starts running and he disappears. And I think it's because all of the staff members at this point had gathered around the store, one because it was closing, but all because they were discussing the man that was stalking me, because they had all become aware of him, and I think they let each other know through like a PDT or something. So he grabs his stuff and he hightails it out of there, and I'm waiting for them to organise for a male to take me out to my car. So then they get a male co-worker and he's like, I'm going to walk you out to your car. He walks me out to my car. And I get to my car, he's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, thank you so much. So I hop into my car, lock my doors, and I start my car. And at that point, I look over and I see the guy that was stalking me. He's in a ute. It could have been like a Hilux or a Trident with one of like those stainless canopies on the back, the work canopies on the tray. And he puts on his spotlights to try and blind me. I was like, what the hell? That's that guy. Oh my God, he's there. And then he literally just speeds out of the complex. He just speeds off and he drives away. So I was like, oh, alhamdulillah, he's gone. But little do I know, he wasn't actually gone. Now, when you exit the complex, there's a roundabout on the road right outside this shopping centre. Okay, it's like a marketplace. There's a Woolies, there's an Aldi, there's a Coles, there's a bunch of stores. And then when you exit, there's a roundabout. And if you turn right, it takes you onto the highway. And if you turn left, it takes you like into suburbia and shops and like more cafes and stuff. So as I'm exiting, what do I see? I see this guy. He's on the roundabout and he's just going around in circles. He's just doing his rounds. He's waiting for me to exit to figure out which way I'm going. So I was like, shit, like he's there. He's trying to stalk me. He's still following me. So I'm like, all right, I've got to go the opposite direction because I can't take this guy to my house. So I turn right and I head onto the highway. And again, he's on my tail. And like I'm speeding down the highway and he's following me. Not even joking, for 15 minutes he was following me until I got to a police station. So like I took him all the way to a police station, then he disappeared. Like he ran away, obviously. Reported him. I was like, I'd like to report like a case of stalking, please. This guy literally stalked me throughout the shopping centre and then he followed me down the highway. So anyways, they took his number plate because luckily I got a photo of his number plate. And like a description and whatever, and they said that they'll follow up with it. So that's what they did today. Like they got all the CCTV footage from the shopping centre, and luckily they took it so seriously. But I just want to say, like, to females when shopping alone, like you need to be hyper vigilant and hyper aware of your surroundings, because subhanallah, had this woman, may Allah reward her, if she had not noticed that this person was stalking me, I would literally have just been none the wiser. And I would have just left and gotten in my car and driven home, and this guy would have known my address, and who knows what sick intentions he had. Allahu alam what his intentions were for me, but I strongly believe that this person had intended to follow me home and probably do something. Maybe break into my house later, or just know where I live because he had sick intentions. So please, girls, like whenever you're shopping alone, or like anywhere, wherever you are, even if you're at a cafe late at night or like anywhere, just be hyper vigilant of your surroundings, because you really don't know who's lurking and what sick intentions people might have. That was honestly such a terrifying situation to be in. But alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful for the young woman at this particular Woolworths. I'm not going to say which Woolworths it was, but like, if you see this, honestly, thank you so much. You may have just saved my life.
Something very scary happened to me the other day, and I am not just saying this to be dramatic. I, honest to God, thought I was going to get raped, stabbed or killed. I have already shared what happened on my Instagram, but I thought about it and I wanted this video to be more than just a story time about what happened, because I feel very passionate about the fact that something seriously needs to change. The UK police justice system is messed up. Onlookers need to do more, and people need to speak about this more to raise awareness so that we can prevent things like this happening. Since I got back from Australia, I have been followed by a guy in Bath. He has been following me for the last 4 days. He actually got taken away by the police the other day when he ran up to me, intimidating me. And then 2 days ago, I was sat outside in a coffee shop and he saw me, he came over, he sat on the table opposite me, staring at me. He then came over and picked up my drink, started drinking it, took my drink away and made a sexual intimidation threat. I then got up and walked off, and he followed me for about 30 minutes around the city in Bath where I live. And every time I stopped, he would also stop. At some points he would sit down on the floor staring at me. People could see I was scared, and I definitely saw other people watching what was going on, but no one really intervened. I went into a few shops waiting for him to go away, and then I would come out, start walking again, and he would be there again. And then at one point I changed direction, and I think that made him angry, so he had a bottle of cider or beer or something, and he threw it at the wall towards me, and it smashed right next to me. And at that point I genuinely thought he was going to stab me in the back with the broken bottle. I called someone for help, and at that point I was outside the gym that I was about to do a workout in, and that is where he inappropriately touched me in a sexual way. And thank God the person who I had called showed up and I was safe, I was okay. And there was a bit of a fight, the police came. But the next bit is what infuriates me and just makes me so angry. This guy who was harassing me, stalking me, threatening me, sexually harassing me, asked the police if he could go to Sainsbury's to get some snacks before they locked him up. And they let him go and get snacks before they put him in a cell. He then got locked up for 24 hours and he is now allowed to be back out with absolutely no repercussions. And now I am absolutely petrified to walk around my own hometown and scared that he is going to do the same to other girls. But it is illegal for girls to carry pepper spray or anything to kind of defend themselves. So I am genuinely so disappointed and angry at how this situation, and how I'm sure so many other situations like this get.
This is the man who's been stalking me since September 4th, 2023. His name's Ayo Aniwe, but he goes by Rosh, which is his middle name. I feel comfortable sharing that information on here because the injunction restraining order that I have on him is public record. I met Ayo on September 4th after I'd gone to the gas station across the street from my apartment building. As I was returning home, he chased me down, screaming for my attention, demanded my social media information. At the time, I was shocked by what happened, and I made the very unfortunate decision to give him my phone when he reached for it. And he put in his Instagram information, and then we said goodbye. Within the next 20 to 30 minutes, he asked me if he could ask me a weird question, and then he sent this, which was a request to pay me to watch him strip. I made it incredibly clear that I was uncomfortable with the request, and then I asked him to never contact me again. I made a TikTok about what had happened, and I made sure to omit his information as well as the business that he worked at. But I have a large following of mostly young women, and I wanted them to learn from my mistake. After I did this, I began to receive very strange messages from an account that I didn't know. I'm used to getting backlash, but this was exceptional. It defended the man to the point where it became clear that it was him. And once I blocked that account, new accounts were made. And that would become the pattern between September 4th, 2023 and today, November 26th, 2023. I reported this information to my apartment complex because I was frightened since he works at the gas station across the street. They advised me to call the police, which I did. The police spoke to him and the behavior continued. At this point, I reported the behavior to his supervisor, and I was advised by my apartment complex to file an injunction, which is Florida's version of a restraining order. Io was let go from his job, and the threats started rolling in. As of today, Io has contacted me over 90 times since I told him to leave me alone. He has created 10 different accounts. There have been over 8 threats to my safety, and I say over because some of his threats were taken down by TikTok before I could screenshot them. And he's also attempted multiple times to get me to drop the case. We've been to court 4 times due to this behavior. The first time, Io asked for a continuance and wanted to write a letter of recusal for the judge and also wanted to file a restraining order against me. The restraining order he attempted to file against me was dismissed because it was found to be retaliatory. In this restraining order, he asked that the court remove my social media if I ever use it to denigrate him. The second injunction hearing ended up not really happening. We went up to plead our cases, and the judge said that he was not recusing himself due to the letter that Io had written, but because he wanted to voluntarily do it. We were reassigned to a new judge, and then the third injunction hearing happened. I was physically present at this hearing, and Io apparently was on a Zoom call in a different county. At the county that we were supposed to be in, that I was present for, I was granted the injunction on a permanent basis. At the county that I never filed an injunction in, he had it dismissed. The court caught on to what had happened, and we were rescheduled for a 4th hearing. Now, a hearing is not like a trial. It's not a guilty, not guilty thing. I was allowed to give my evidence, which I did, and then he was allowed to give his, and we were able to cross-examine. I also brought a witness with me, which was one of the police officers that had interviewed him. The hearing lasted 2.5 hours. I presented all of my evidence, including screenshots, transcripts. He was allowed to present evidence, but he didn't have any to present. Part of his defense was to say that because I've been stalked before, I clearly have some kind of trauma associated with it and am overly triggered. He also said that because I have PTSD, I'm an overly emotional woman. I learned a lot about Io during that hearing. After everything was said and done, the judge made his ruling, which was that I was a credible witness and that I had demonstrated that he had created these accounts and that he was incredible or not credible. The injunction was made permanent and served. This injunction requires that he remains 500 feet away from me at all times. He is also not allowed to contact me via any means, including cyberstalking. He cannot solicit his friends and family to contact me. He was ordered a mandatory mental health evaluation and was also ordered to partake in any treatment that was recommended after the evaluation. He's also not allowed to purchase or possess a firearm. I wish I could say that him being served this injunction made the behavior stop, but it didn't. Within hours of me returning home after the 4th injunction, he had created a new account again. He used this account to say that I was only granted the injunction because I'm a woman and that I still don't got no boyfriend. He attempted to solicit a friend of mine for CFNM, which is clothed female, naked male. In other words, stripping for her. And then he made an additional account to let me know that if I contacted him privately and made amends, that he would leave me alone. But if I don't, he plans to haunt me for the rest of my life. As I said earlier, the date is November 26th, 2023.
She told her loved ones if anything happened to her, her stalker did it. She did everything to get away from this man. And unfortunately, the police found her body and her stalkers sitting in a vehicle in a parking lot. This is 25-year-old Doris Aguilar, and she was being stalked by a man that she used to work with. His name is Jose Cular. The two worked together about a year ago when Jose harassed her and stalked her and made her feel extremely uncomfortable. So she reported him at work and he was fired. But him being fired didn't change anything because he continued to harass her online. And he would also come to her gym and harass her there. She had to switch gyms 3 times because this man would not leave her alone. This was the gym that she went to before, and every time he would go, he would tag it on his Facebook, so blatantly watching her. She told her friends and family that she was scared of him and that if anything happened to her that he did it, and she tried to let people know what was going on. Doris ends up switching to this Lifetime Fitness gym, and on June 27th he made this post: "Getting my membership back at Lifetime Fitness. Good year. See you soon." And just FYI, I didn't do that for privacy. I can't show you what the image is. This right here was a sign alone that this man was unhinged. So that was on June 27th. On the night of July 1st, just a few days later, she left home to go to the store and never returned. She was reported missing by her loved ones, and days later they found her vehicle. It was unlocked, her purse was still inside, her money was still inside, and everyone was extremely worried because this clearly wasn't a robbery. Because she told her family about the stalker, her family was able to hire a PI who was looking at it from that angle, trying to figure out what happened to Doris. And then sadly, on July 7th, her remains as well as Jose's were found in this vehicle. Also in the vehicle was a note written by Jose that made it appear that Doris took her own life. However, based on reports, she couldn't have, because what happened did not take place in the vehicle. She was moved into the vehicle afterwards. His cause of death is self-unaliving. She disappeared the night of July 1st, and her phone shut off shortly after that. However, her phone pinged again on July 2nd in a different town. The car that they were found in was a rental car, most likely purchased by Jose. Because Jose is no longer living, that changes the way these investigations are done, and I hope that her family is given more answers on what happened to her. Because of the state of decomposition that she was found in on July 7th, it took the police a while to officially identify her. And I hope that means that she didn't have to suffer that whole week with Jose. We have to change laws on stalking. We let people get away with things until someone gets hurt, and people are hurt because of it.
When I was in high school, I was stalked by a boy in my grade, and pretty much the entire time I was told that I was being overdramatic and he wasn't really stalking me. And this is the story of the time that I saw him in another state. A little bit of backstory is necessary. I had known this guy since like elementary school. He was sort of like widely ostracized. He was kind of weird. He was kind of like a stereotypical like nerd, I guess. Like if you were to imagine a nerd from a cartoon, it was like if that was brought to life. And he attracted a lot of bullying, and I always felt bad for him because as weird as he was always like pretty nice. There was like, he was annoying, I guess, but I didn't see him as being like malicious. And I always remembered one time my mom said about this kid, she said, it's really sad, kids like that, because even when you're a little bit weird, people will treat you weird and then you almost become weirder. So I always sort of had it in my head that I would try to treat everybody nicely, treat everybody the same with respect. And I always treated this kid as nicely as I could. We were never friends, but we were not like enemies, I guess. Well, in middle school, there was a camp that we had at our school, and I talked about this in a different video, but I extended myself to this kid in friendship and basically offered for him to come sit at our table. And that was like part of the camp. They were like teaching you to be nice and reach out to people. So I did that. And after I did that, he kind of like latched onto me for the rest of the camp and like was just like wouldn't really leave me alone. He was hanging out with me the whole time. And I thought like, oh well, no big deal. It'll just go back to normal when we go back to regular school. But it didn't. He came and would sit with us every single day. He figured out my class schedule and he would wait for me outside of my classes. He would know where I was going to be before school. He would know where I was going to be after school. He would go out of his way and disrupt his own schedule to make sure that he was going to be where I was going to be. I regrettably, like, you know, I was a 14-year-old or something, 13. I probably led him on, I guess, by not being more firm. But when I explained this to like my parents or my friends and I said like, hey, he's really obsessed with me, like he won't leave me alone, they were like, oh, he just likes you. Oh, don't be mean to him. And so I felt really, really bad, like to basically telling this guy to leave me alone. That being said, I was like not actively encouraging this. I was like going out of my way to avoid him. This was really like a seriously anxiety inducing prolonged event for me throughout the very end of middle school and into high school. I was like in a constant state of fear, basically, that I would run into him in public, that he would find me, and he never gave me any reason to believe that he would harm me. But when you look into stalker situations, like that's pretty much where it goes. So I was a little bit scared. And this particular kid had actually been suspended from our middle school for bringing a fake to school and threatening an administrator with it before. So like I said, nobody really took me seriously except for my middle school band director, because I sat next to this kid in band, and he stepped in and he basically told this kid, like, leave this girl alone. If I see you talking to this girl, like, it's over for you. So shout out to my middle school band director. You're like one of the only men who has ever protected me in my life. So anyway, I did eventually tell this kid, hey, you need to leave me alone. I'm not interested. And he would back off. He kind of acted like super wounded about it. And always he would find like a pretext to reinsert himself into my life, whether it was through band, because this was in middle school. We graduated middle school, went on to high school. We had a different band director. So now we sat next to each other in band again. And there wasn't all of this backstory. And I tried to explain the situation to the new band director, and he really blew me off. And so once again, I was sort of like back involved with this kid, and I looked like a jerk. Like if he would speak to me, like, what am I supposed to do in class? Like ignore him, give him the cold shoulder. Like, you know, everybody kind of, when, like I said, when I would complain about this to my friend, they would, like my friends, they would make me feel like I was really overreacting and like he was completely harmless and I should just kind of like play along, basically. Like some of them would honestly even encourage me to like maybe go out with him once or twice. But that being said, whenever he would come and sit at our table, they would be like, Kirsten, you gotta get this guy out of here. Like, what's he doing here? So fast forward to high school, I did summer school PE because I was an overachiever and I wanted to graduate at the top of my class, and the only way to do that was to get your PE credit out of the way because you couldn't do honors PE. So I did PE over the summer. Guess who is in my summer school PE class? I'm going to give him a name now. We'll call him Aaron. Aaron is in my summer school PE class. So we're together every day, 4 hours a day for 4 weeks. Yay! Once again, I tell him, you need to leave me alone. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. So he's leaving me alone during this summer school PE session. I overhear him speaking to some other kids, and he says, yeah, my family is going to go on a summer trip to San Francisco. Well, I started freaking out because guess where my family was going on a trip to? San Francisco. So I go home from summer school PE. I start tweaking, telling my mom, Aaron's going to be in San Francisco. He's going to see me. He knew I was going to be there. He did this. Keep in mind, we're 14. I don't even know if like we had phones, you know, like there was really limited, this guy had limited resources to stalk me. He was a kid basically. And so rightly so, my mom was like, Kirsten, calm down. You're being ridiculous. He's 14. What's he gonna do? San Francisco is a giant city. He's probably not even going at the same time as we are. And even if he was, like, you're never gonna see him. So I'm like, okay, yeah, Kirsten is being ridiculous again. Of course, as always. She's right. I'll just calm down. It's no big deal. I do find out that we're going at the same time, but, you know, I'll listen to my mom. I'll just, whatever. I'll calm down. We go to San Francisco. We are there for a few days. No sightings of Aaron so far. We go to Chinatown. Our plan is to walk around Chinatown and go get dim sum. We go to the little, the fortune cookie factory, and we ask a lady that we speak to in the fortune cookie factory for a recommendation for a dim sum restaurant. She says, oh, you got to go to this one. It's here. You take this turn, this turn, this turn, and then you get there. We go, great, awesome. We walk to this dim sum restaurant. Halfway on our walk there, this lady, I swear she appeared out of nowhere. The same woman who gave us the directions pops up and goes, wait, I'm so glad I found you. I gave you the wrong directions to that dim sum restaurant. You actually have to do this, this, and this. And we go, wow, great. We get to the dim sum restaurant. We sit down, eat our dim sum. It was good, I assume. I don't know, because everything about that day was sort of eclipsed by this one event. We eat our dim sum. I'm sitting. My back is to the door. My mom is facing the door. And just as we pay the bill, my mom goes, oh my gosh, Kirsten, don't look behind you. And in the pit of my soul, I knew what was happening, and it was Aaron. Aaron and his parents had walked into the restaurant, and we get up to leave, and I turn around and we walked back, because this was like during a phase where he was not speaking to me because I had told him not to. And we walked past each other. We just made eye contact, and neither of us said anything to each other. Oh my gosh, it was the most harrowing moment of my life. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, I really truly believe that he had like found me there somehow. I know that sounds crazy, but, and like his parents knew who I was, and they were probably like, what's going on? Like, why didn't they talk to each other? Because this kid was always telling his parents that like we were best friends. And I know that because this kid also went to the same hairdresser as me, because our moms went to the same hairdresser, and I would get my hair cut and she'd be like, Aaron was talking about you. And I'd be like, oh. And basically, I could just never relax after that. I was like so sure that this guy was tracking my location. Like I said, I know that that's not possible, but let me know. What do you think? Do you think that that was genuinely like a random coincidence? Did God really do that to me? Or was he actually stalking me? I'm curious to know what you think.
I had a stalker at work, so I'm just going to quickly tell you about him. I don't see him anymore, but I'm going to tell you. So he's this older man. He told me his name once, but I don't remember. So first time he came through, he's like this older man. First time he came through, he was like super nice. And obviously I'm nice because it's customer service. I have to be nice. So I'm serving him. I'm like, yeah, we're having conversation. He comes through again. And like on the same day the next week. So he knows I work this day. So he comes through the same day the next week and he starts talking more. He's telling me about the car he just bought. He's telling me about the old motorbike he used to have that he had an accident on. He's telling me about his new dog. He goes, so you work this shift every week? I'm not thinking much of it. I'm like, oh, he's a nice guy, whatever. And then he's like, so what other days do you work? So I give him the days that I work. Silly me, okay? I understand that's my fault. And then he's like, okay, perfect, I'll see you on this day, which was the next day I was working. And I was like, okay. And this is when I first started going, why are you coming in just to see me? Shouldn't you be coming in to shop? Anyways, next time he comes through, this is the most wild thing he's like ever said. So he puts down a bunch of chocolates, like heaps. And I was like, oh, someone's got a sweet tooth. And I'm scanning it. He's like, no, I'm bringing it home for my wife. And I was like, oh, that's really lovely. And he's like, eh. He's like, oh, I've been married 3 times. So it's not like, it's nothing new to me. And I was like, oh, perfect. And then jokingly, I said, oh, so which one's been your favorite? Obviously, you'd say your current wife, right? Being like, oh, you know, my wife I'm with now, love of my life. He goes, oh, my second wife. The love of my life, I miss her every day, but we had to split up. And I was like, if I was your wife, I would off myself. There's no way I'm letting my husband talk about me like that. So I was like, oh, okay, what happened? And then he's telling me all about his second wife and how much he loved her and why he loved her and why they had to split up. And I was like, okay, you fucking weirdo. And then someone comes behind him in the register. And he's still talking about his wife. And then I finished, he paid, and he's like, I never get to speak to you long enough. And then he's like, I never get to speak to you long enough. I should get your number so that we can talk more. And I was like, oh. I was like, haha. And then I started to serve the next customer, so he went off. And I was like, that's weird, right? That's weird. So I told my manager about it, and I was like, look, it's a little bit weird. And then she was like, okay, if it happens again, like, let me know again. So he comes through again, and he's like, hey, so I never got your number last time. And I was like, yeah, because, like, I'm 17. No, actually, he actually said in this same transaction, right? So he's like, I never got your number last time. And I was like, ha, just laughing it off because I'm not going to be like, you can't have my number. I was just laughing it off and kept scanning. And then he's like, so you work here full time? And I was like, no, I'm still in school. He goes, school? And I was like, yeah, I'm 17. I'm in year 12. And he was like, right. From that day, I've never seen him again. So, like, thank you for abiding to the law and, like, wanting me to be overage. Thank you for not going for a minor. But, like, you should have assumed, okay? You probably should have assumed. I was working after school hours. I told you that. So, like, I wasn't ever working during the day. Probably could have guessed. And I personally don't think I look old enough to be working there full time. Like, at most, I'd be in uni. Odd. But I haven't seen him since. I don't know where he went. And every time I do see him, like, when he just happens to be there at the same time as me, he doesn't come through my register anymore. And he's like, hi. Like, he's, like, awkward because he knows that he did something wrong. Anyways.